Jacob had always been fascinated by the stories his grandmother told him about Native American tribes. She had shared tales of the Apache, their bravery, and their strong family bonds. Growing up in a small Arizona town, he never thought he would get the chance to meet any Apache people in person. Yet, fate had a way of surprising him. Through volunteering at a local cultural center, he met Nayeli, a young Apache woman with bright eyes and a calm presence. From the first day, Jacob felt a connection he couldn't explain. Nayeli was kind and patient, and she had a way of making him feel welcome in her community. She often invited him to local gatherings, dances, and small ceremonies that celebrated Apache culture. Jacob admired the way the people respected their traditions, worked together, and cared for each other. He learned quickly that family was the center of their lives, and every decision considered the well-being of everyone involved. Jacob found himself drawn not just to Nayeli, but also to the warmth of her family and the values they lived by. Over the months, Jacob and Nayeli grew close. They spent long afternoons walking along desert trails, talking about life, dreams, and hopes for the future. Nayeli told Jacob about her childhood, her love for the land, and her strong bond with her two younger sisters, Alina and Marisol. She explained how the sisters shared everything, from chores to responsibilities, and always looked out for each other. Jacob listened, fascinated. He had never experienced anything like it, and he began to understand why Nayeli spoke so highly of family unity. Jacob eventually realized that he wanted more than friendship. He wanted to spend his life with Nayeli. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the mountains, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, he nervously proposed. Nayeli smiled, her eyes shining, and accepted. Jacob was overjoyed. He imagined a life with her, thinking he would marry the woman he loved and build a small family together. He had no idea that the path ahead would be far more complicated than he imagined. As the wedding day approached, Jacob noticed customs and rituals he didn't fully understand. Nayeli spoke about her family's way of life, explaining that everything was done to maintain balance and harmony. At first, he thought it was similar to the traditions he had read about or seen in movies, but little by little, he realized that some aspects were different from anything he had expected. The elders spoke about family responsibilities, shared bonds, and the importance of respecting cultural practices. Jacob nodded politely, not wanting to seem rude, but he didn't fully grasp the depth of what he was being told. Finally, the day of the wedding arrived. Jacob was both nervous and excited. He had prepared a speech, dressed in a suit he hoped was appropriate, and tried to study all the customs he had been taught. The ceremony was set on a plateau overlooking the desert. The sky was a brilliant blue, and a gentle breeze carried the scent of sage and desert flowers. Families gathered, and the elders began the rituals, explaining each step in simple words for Jacob. He felt a sense of awe as he watched the careful movements, the chanting, and the respect shown in every gesture. As the ceremony moved forward, Jacob thought he was ready to exchange vows with Nayeli alone. But then, her two younger sisters, Alina and Marisol, approached him. Jacob froze. They smiled at him, calm and confident, but he could feel the tension in his chest. An elder stepped forward and explained that in their tradition, sisters sometimes share marital responsibilities to maintain family harmony. Jacob blinked, trying to process what he was hearing. He had believed he was marrying only Nayeli. Now, he was expected to accept a bond with all three sisters. The sisters approached Jacob one by one. Nayeli was the first to speak. She gently explained that their culture valued unity above all, that each sister had a role, and that the bond they shared was not meant to cause confusion, but to strengthen the family. Jacob tried to listen carefully. Though his mind raced, he respected Nayeli and the elders, but he had never imagined this situation. Alina, the middle sister, smiled warmly and said that she and Marisol only wanted him to understand their family, and that nothing would be forced. Marisol, the youngest, added that love could take different forms, and that he had a choice in how he approached the relationship. Jacob felt overwhelmed. He wanted to honor Nayeli and her family, but the responsibility seemed immense. He stepped aside, taking a deep breath, and tried to organize his thoughts. He thought about all the time he had spent with Nayeli, the walks, the talks, and the shared laughter. He thought about how he had admired the way her family cared for each other. Slowly, he began to see the meaning behind the elder's words. This was not about controlling him or forcing him to act against his will. It was about trust, respect, and harmony. As the ceremony continued, Jacob watched the sisters interact. He saw how they looked out for each other, how they supported one another, and how they shared moments of laughter and understanding. The bond they had was unlike anything he had ever seen. It was deep, unconditional, and rooted in love and respect. Jacob realized that accepting this arrangement would mean becoming part of something greater than himself, part of a family that valued unity and cooperation above individual desires. By the end of the ceremony, Jacob still felt uncertain, but he also felt a spark of understanding. He knew that love could take different forms, and that he needed to approach this situation with patience and openness. He looked at Nayeli, Alina, and Marisol, seeing not three separate individuals, but a family connected by trust, tradition, and shared values. Jacob realized that his journey with them would be unlike anything he had ever experienced. And he felt a mixture of nervousness and curiosity. Later that evening, the sisters sat with Jacob around a small fire. They shared stories, explaining how they had always relied on each other and how important it was for their family to stay united. Nayeli placed her hand on Jacob's and said softly that they wanted him to feel comfortable, to learn, and to grow with them. Alina and Marisol nodded, smiling warmly. Jacob felt a strange sense of calm. Though he had entered the day with certain expectations, he now understood that life often unfolded in ways he could not predict, and that embracing new experiences required trust and courage. Jacob spent the night thinking deeply about his future. He realized that love and family were not always simple, and that cultural traditions could challenge his previous ideas. He knew that he would need time to adjust, but he also felt a sense of excitement. This was an opportunity to learn, to grow, and to become part of something meaningful. Jacob decided that he would approach the coming days with patience, respect, and an open heart. Knowing that the journey with Nayeli and her sisters was just beginning, Jacob woke the next morning with a mix of excitement and nervousness. He knew that the days ahead would be different from anything he had ever experienced. The previous day's ceremony had left him with a whirlwind of thoughts, but it had also sparked a curiosity in him, a desire to understand Nayeli and her sisters more deeply. He wanted to learn their ways, their culture, and how he could become part of this unique family. The morning sun rose over the desert, casting long shadows across the sand and cacti. Nayeli, Alina, and Marisol had already started their daily routines. Jacob observed quietly, noticing how the sisters moved together with a sense of harmony and cooperation. Alina prepared breakfast while Marisol tended to small chores, and Nayeli quietly checked on the family's arrangements for the day. Jacob realized that this was more than a family, it was a team, where each member played a vital role. As breakfast was served, the sisters invited Jacob to sit with them. They explained some of their cultural practices in simple terms, guiding him on how to participate without disrespecting their traditions. Jacob listened carefully, asking questions and taking mental notes. He learned that each sister had specific responsibilities, not only for their home but also for the extended family and the community. The concept of shared roles fascinated him. He had never seen a family operate with such unity, and he felt a growing respect for the way they worked together. During the following days, Jacob began participating in daily life with the sisters. He helped Alina gather water from a nearby stream, learning the careful techniques she used to carry and store it. He assisted Marisol in organizing supplies for the family, discovering the precision and thoughtfulness required in each task. Nayeli guided him gently, showing him how to navigate conversations with elders and how to observe cultural etiquette. Slowly, Jacob began to feel more comfortable. The initial shock of the unexpected arrangement started to fade, replaced by curiosity and admiration. One afternoon, the sisters decided to take Jacob on a walk through the desert to teach him about their land. They pointed out plants with medicinal uses, shared stories of their ancestors, and explained the spiritual significance of certain landmarks. Jacob listened intently, realizing that the land itself held a wealth of knowledge and tradition. The sisters shared their experiences of growing up together, explaining how their bond had been formed through trust, support, and shared responsibilities. Jacob understood that this connection was the foundation of their lives, and he felt honored to witness it firsthand. As days turned into weeks, Jacob learned to adapt to the family's routines. He began waking early, participating in chores, and even learning some of the Apache language to communicate more effectively. The sisters were patient with him, offering guidance and encouragement. Nayeli often reminded him that he didn't need to rush, that understanding and acceptance took time. Jacob appreciated this approach and found comfort in the slow, steady process of integration. The more time Jacob spent with the sisters, the more he began to see the depth of their individual personalities. Nayeli was thoughtful and protective, always considering the needs of her sisters. Alina was practical and organized, ensuring that the household ran smoothly. Marisol was playful and curious, bringing joy and laughter to every moment. Jacob realized that their differences complemented each other perfectly, and he started to understand how these qualities shaped the family's dynamic. One evening, as the sun set in brilliant shades of orange and pink, the sisters sat with Jacob around a small fire. They shared stories of their childhood, moments of struggle, and experiences that had shaped their lives. Jacob listened, captivated by the depth of their experiences and the resilience they had shown. He began to see that his role in their lives was not only about love or marriage, it was about being a supportive partner, a friend, and someone who could contribute to the family's harmony. Over time, Jacob noticed that his feelings for the sisters were evolving. He had entered the situation, thinking only of Nayeli, but he now realized that he cared deeply for Alina and Marisol as well. The love he felt was not limited to one person. It was a shared respect, trust, and affection that grew naturally. He understood that the arrangement was not about possession or control, but about partnership and unity. This realization brought him a sense of peace he had not anticipated. Jacob also learned to navigate challenges with patience. There were moments when misunderstandings arose, or when he struggled to adjust to customs he didn't fully understand. During these times, the sisters supported him with kindness and guidance. Nayeli often reminded him that learning a new way of life required patience, while Alina and Marisol offered practical advice and gentle encouragement. Jacob felt a growing sense of confidence as he learned to communicate, contribute, and participate fully in their lives. As the family bond strengthened, Jacob became more involved in the community. He attended local gatherings, helped with small projects, and participated in cultural ceremonies. The sisters guided him, introducing him to neighbors, explaining traditions, and helping him understand the importance of cultural respect. Jacob felt a sense of belonging he had never experienced before. He was no longer just an outsider. He was part of a family and a community that valued him for who he was. One afternoon, while helping Nayeli prepare traditional crafts, Jacob reflected on how far he had come. He remembered the confusion and nervousness he had felt during the wedding ceremony, and he marveled at how much he had learned since then. The sisters had become more than family. They were his teachers, his guides, and his friends. He felt a sense of gratitude for the opportunity to grow, to learn, and to be part of something greater than himself. As weeks turned into months, Jacob's bond with the sisters deepened. He shared meals, stories, and laughter with them every day. He learned to anticipate their needs, support their goals, and celebrate their achievements. The sisters, in turn, trusted him completely, relying on him for guidance, assistance, and companionship. Jacob realized that love was not always about romantic gestures alone. It was about understanding, patience, and shared experiences. By the end of his first year with Nayeli, Alina, and Marisol, Jacob had fully embraced his role within the family. He had learned to balance responsibilities, respect traditions, and participate in daily life with confidence. The initial shock and hesitation he had felt were replaced with a sense of harmony, respect, and genuine affection. Jacob understood that this experience had changed him profoundly, teaching him lessons about love, culture, and the meaning of family. The story concludes with Jacob sitting with the sisters during a community festival, watching the sunset over the desert. The laughter of children, the music of drums, and the warmth of firelight surrounded them. Jacob felt a deep sense of belonging, knowing that he had found a family that valued unity, respect, and love above all else. He realized that life often took unexpected turns, but by embracing them with patience and an open heart, one could discover a deeper, more meaningful happiness than ever imagined. Jacob looked at Nayeli, Alina, and Marisol, smiling as they shared stories and laughter. He had begun the journey expecting one love, but he had gained something far greater: a family, a community, and a life full of connection, learning, and shared joy. In that moment, he understood that the true gift was not simply marriage, but the bond that tied them all together, uniting them in trust, respect, and love.